For the past fortnight, the Victorian government has grappled to secure parliamentary support for controversial new pandemic laws. Despite weeks of public protests, the government appears to have secured the votes it needs. Nadia Daly explains what that means.
Months of controversy over COVID lockdowns and vaccines have left a lingering mark on the streets of Melbourne.
We're looking at a society that's divided, a society that's polarised, off effectively an incredibly difficult 2 years. That's a level of polarisation that we haven't seen in our lifetime.
The latest public flashpoint is the state government's proposed new pandemic laws, which sparked weeks of public protest.
Some of the ugly scenes we've seen outside, that is no fault of the government. We're open and we're safe, not because everyone went to a protest, but because everyone went to a vax hub.
There's a lot of anger out in the community, there's a lot of anxiety about the future for many of these people. And I think in many ways that's exacerbated the problem. There has been a failure to put the legislation out there for consideration and open it to debate.
The legislation will replace the existing state of emergency powers which expire in a fortnight. It would transfer the power to issue health orders from the Chief Health Officer to the Premier and Health Minister of the day. New South Wales also currently gives its Health Minister similar broad powers to enact public health orders under its 11-year-old Public Health Act. Premier Dominic Perrottet has delayed a decision to renew those powers until next year.
Those provisions that are necessary will be extended, and I'll work through that with the Health Minister over this period of time.
It's been a chaotic few weeks in Victorian politics. The government's plans to pass the bill were thrown into disarray a fortnight ago when former Labor Minister Adem Somyurek returned to Parliament after a long self-imposed absence to vote against it.
This bill is all about unfettered power. We're withdrawing civil liberties. What we need is to make sure that we've got the safeguards and checks and balances in place. We need to make sure that we've got accountability mechanisms, scrutiny mechanisms, oversight mechanisms, all bolstered up.
But if you were a minister with the Labor government, you would be voting for this bill, right? You would have to.
Well, yeah, and that's people say, why are you turning up the vote? Is this revenge? I'm not bound to vote with them, so why would I? Now,
so it's not revenge, your move?
Absolutely not. There is no place for revenge in public life. My job now is to scrutinise the government. I haven't sort of been converted to this cause all of a sudden. I have very strong beliefs on this.
Adem Somyurek was sacked last year over allegations he was involved in branch stacking and faced days of questioning at the recent anti-corruption inquiry. He sat down with 7:30 for one of his first interviews since then. How credible is your position on this, given at the moment you're being investigated by Victoria's Anti-Corruption Commission?
I would hope that that's your question and not the question from the Andrews Labor government.
I write my own questions, so it's mine.
Sorry, that wasn't having a go at you. What I'm trying to say, the point I was trying to make is there will be a lot more people disenfranchised than me if you're looking at branch stacking as an allegation.
The re-emergence of Mr Somyurek forced the government to seek the support of other key crossbenchers, spending late nights locked in meetings to secure the crucial votes of Rod Barton and Clifford Hayes.
So I think that they should have been negotiating with us all 6 months ago. But the main concerns are lack of parliamentary oversight and to have an independent channel for people to appeal detention, also to have the Ombudsman involved. The level of fines and jail sentences, I'd like to see the fines looked at again and the jail sentences removed if possible.
Today the government announced it had agreed to 6 amendments to secure the vote of Rod Barton, giving it the numbers to pass the bill.
This is a far better bill than what we had, and we have curbed the powers of this government.
Clifford Hayes told 7:30 he's been consulting widely and won't be supporting the bill, as some of his key demands were not met.
I think the bill sort of set up a way of permanently entrenching a state of emergency, which I don't think is right if we're going to manage pandemics into the future.
Today, protesters gathered outside Victoria's Parliament again as the government prepared to vote on the legislation. Despite the likely passage of the bill, extremism expert Dr Joshua Roos is concerned the public discontent may give rise to growing extremism.
We're actually seeing a serious turn away from democratic debate and conversations to a really quite insidious threat to democracy. We have to see the threat on the one hand, but we've also got to understand there's a lot of anger and a lot of resentment and anxiety out there, and we've got to take that seriously.